This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Haulin Assets podcast, episode number 184. Today we are talking July 2025 financials. I'm Craig. Over there, he is Chris. Hi, Chris.
How's it going, Craig?
All right.
Good.
Oh, man. I really want to jump into the jokes right away, but let me just say, wait to the end of this or possibly another episode. We've got a story that Chris wants to tell you. I don't know when we're going to tell it, but he was just teasing it to me, and it's going to be a good one. So we'll forego that for the moment, and I'll just remind everybody right now, before we get into financials and stories and all that, to go to HaulinAssetsLLC.com for full show notes. Go to Motor Carrier HQ. Sorry, let me say that more clearly. MotorCarrierHQ.com.
That was proper.
Right?
Yeah.
For the tools, tips, and people you need to make the jump from employee, driver to owner, operator. And then finally, Haulin Assets Academy. If you want to go that self-directed route of learning how to do what Chris has done for the last few years, then go to HaulinAssetsAcademy.com for the courses there. Chris, Tales from the Road. All right, now, you've got a couple.
I do have a couple.
And for the newcomers out there, yeah, we start with a couple, the one or two tales from the road, and then we'll get into the numbers in just a minute. Okay, so the first one is about onions.
Onions, yeah.
Both of them are about smell.
Yes.
Right?
Well, the second one's not about smell.
Oh, okay.
There's no smell involved in the second one.
I just figured when I read the headline of what the story was going to be. Okay, so onions. Tell me about onions.
So we've talked a little bit about this in the past, and this is a little different take on it. We haul a lot of onions.
We're in Utah.
If you're in Utah, you're going to haul onions. You're probably going to haul potatoes if you're a reefer. So we haul a decent amount of each of those. And we were hauling onions that took us back east into just outside of the Columbus, Ohio area. And it was one of those where it's quick turnaround, dropping off the onions in the morning, picking up another load in the afternoon. And some places are a little bit more particular about the smell of onions.
Okay.
And this was definitely one of them. The receiver, we get there, the shipper says, no, it smells too much like onions. We're not going to load you. So I go, what if we go get it washed out?
What was the next load?
It was
something
cereal, some kind of cereal product.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have thought it would
be...
Like
a grain or boxed breakfast cereal?
I think it was more in the bulk part of the cereal prep. And that's probably part of the reason that they're a little bit more picky than most of the time. So driver goes, we make the coordination to go get it washed out and to come back. So we find there's a place just 4 miles down the road, place called T&T Power Wash Service. These guys were awesome. If you're ever in the Columbus area, go use them. Well priced, super fast, did everything they could to get rid of the smell, including they even dried out the trailer for us,
nice.
Which is really going above and beyond.
Especially for grain. If you're hauling grain,
that was kind of the stipulation. They had to be odor-free and dried out. So anyway, all that happens, go back, and they reject it again. It still has a faint smell of onions. So at this point, super picky. I cannot recall another time when we got rejected a second time after a washout. And I don't know if they just kind of had already made up their mind the first time that we weren't hauling the load for them. But anyway, got rejected a second time. But I just, I kind of wanted to highlight this washout place because they did such an awesome job and they were so good to work with. So anyway, if you're in the Columbus area, need a washout, T&T Power Wash Service, fantastic. I think if I remember right, they're kind of on the south side of Columbus.
So is this like a live and learn kind of thing for anybody doing dispatching, whether you're dispatching for yourself or for your company? It's like, hey, think about what the next load and the last load were.
You do, and
I'm sure you try to do that, but
we do, and like I said, most of the time, it's not the first time we've had it rejected by any means. I mean, that happens on I wouldn't say a regular basis, but it's not uncommon. And usually you just go get it washed out, turn around, they'll come back and load you. And there's some tricks that we do to kind of help with that. You can typically turn the reefer temperature all the way up high and run the reefer. It'll dry things out and help get rid of the smell too, and do all that. But in this situation, none of that stuff works.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. Can you get that reefer to freezing?
You can, yeah.
Yeah, because if you can freeze out some odors.
Ice cream down to negative 20. So
there you go. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about the ice cream. All right, so now, Chris, as the old saying goes, you don't cry over spilt milk. But do we make a carve out an exception? Did you cry over the spilt buttermilk?
No, didn't cry, because this actually turned out way better than you would think. I'm gonna sometime in the next couple of weeks we'll share some pictures of the load shift on this particular situation, because it was a decent load shift. This is one of our longtime drivers, been with us for a long time, great driver. Not his fault. In fact, as soon as he got there, the receiver told him, "Oh my gosh, not again! Like, this same load that they get all the time has been doing this, and somehow the word is not getting back to the shipper that, hey, you've got to do a better job of bracing the cargo on this load, because it's essentially milk crates with buttermilk, like quart-sized buttermilk, right? Containers inside of the milk crates. The same milk crates you had when you were went to junior high school or elementary, and you got your milk for 25 cents.
Chris, not everybody grew up in the sticks.
Well, that's how it was for me in Wisconsin.
Oh, you're talking about the ones that hold the individual bottles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the plastic milk crates that are a foot by foot.
Well, that's what the foot by foot, plastic crates.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, the load shifts really bad, and there's bottles of milk all over the trailer. Luckily, it's kind of crazy. I think they only said that there ended up being like 30 of the quart size milk jugs that they had to chuck. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, and it didn't even make, I don't think any of them even got punctured, because it didn't make a big mess in the trailer either. It was just, what ended up happening is they needed the product bad enough that they're like, okay, my driver and I think 2 or 3 other dock workers just got in and started putting the jugs of milk back in the crates and restacking everything and got it out there. So it ended up working out just fine.
Just had to make it acceptable.
Yeah. Right. And we actually have hauled this load again since then. And this time we were like, okay, talk to our driver. This has been a problem. Make sure you've got, make sure it's super, super secured. Did that, no issues on the second time around. But now when we got the rate sheet from the broker, like this time, the second time we hauled the load, it said in like the notes of the load, make extra sure you brace it well, and that they've braced it well. And so
it wasn't
learned. The first time it had happened. It sounded like it happened a bunch of times, and for some reason, like, they're just that word's not making it back to that shipper that you've got a problem with how you're stacking things.
Okay. So that's an individual shipper thing. Not much you can do other than keep a record of what happened with which shipper. So if you go back to them, Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Chris, should we talk some numbers?
Let's talk numbers.
All right. Now, the numbers are bad. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for coming in this week. No, it's all right. There is actually quite a bit to dig into this month. So we just spoke recently. Actually, if people missed it, they should go back and watch/listen to the last episode that we talked about as far as markets and rates and why things are acting the way they are. I think that's going to inform a lot of this discussion, but we're not going to hit that stuff super hard today. But we'll touch on it, I assume. So June was rough. July was awesome, right?
July was even rougher. Yeah. So not a great month. We're kind of used to the summer months. Typically, freight rates are a little bit lower. It tends to be a little bit harder to get miles because people are taking a lot more vacation time in these months than normal. And so, those things added up together, June, July, August, typically aren't the greatest months in trucking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So summer months are tough, but there are always going to be other factors, right? It's not just about the market. Yeah. So do you want to just dig into the numbers and then we can talk about reasons afterwards?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk about miles. Let's start with number of trucks on the road. Any significant downtime for any of the trucks?
In July, we didn't have any of our drivers, like any flip over of drivers. So there was one driver that took a kind of a little bit of an extended vacation. So that definitely affected things. And other than that, for the most part, it was, a lower number of miles for most of our drivers on average, between 9 and 10,000 instead of between 10 and 12,000 for most of them.
Is that just 4th of July vacation time kind of stuff?
Yep, all of that. Okay. And plus, if you remember right, I talked a little bit about this, I think a couple episodes ago, that the 4th of July ended up being kind of a nightmare for us. We had problems with each one of our trucks. We had a bunch of loads that we're supposed to pick up on, I think it was Friday. It was either Thursday or Friday, and then move through the weekend. It all got canceled, and weren't able to pick up till Monday. And so all of that combined, plus most of our drivers off the road anyway, or not most of them, but probably about half of our drivers off the road anyway. Like most of our fleet was basically shut down for 4 or 5 days over that 4th of July weekend.
It
was
okay. Brutal. So this isn't you like subtweeting or whatever we want to call it. You're not. Nobody did anything they weren't supposed to or whatever. This is just the normal summer grind. It's just the normal
chaos of trucking in the summer.
Yeah. So all those Haulin Assets drivers that I know listen to the show, don't worry. Yeah, you're off the hook. Yeah. No, but it kind of parallels with some other work that I do during the summer that just, it feels like it's dead. Yeah. School's out, so everybody's taking vacations or just wrangling kids through the summer or what have you. And it just feels like when your work depends on the market, summer is a nightmare in a lot of ways. Yeah. So hopefully things will pick back up that way. All right, so with all the trucks on the road, what was the mileage total? It
was 107,335 miles. So definitely better than it was in June, but still, I'd really like to see things more towards that 120,000 mile range. We typically see, I would say what's more normal is somewhere between 115 and 130 is kind of our normal mileage range. So we're still definitely below that normal range, but ideal is more like 120 to 130.
And I want to come back to that number when we get to the rate per mile, but let's keep going. Deadhead miles.
So Deadhead was 8,546, which is 8%, almost exactly. I think last month we were 8.1%. So right kind of in that same range, which is a little tiny bit higher than we would like to be. But considering the time of year where we're hauling stuff out of, and a broker that we've done a little bit more loads for. So we've got a shipper, our primary shipper has more Deadhead this time of year. And then one of the brokers that we've been using to get us to kind of a certain area has a little bit more Deadhead. But there are both of those situations are ones where we're accepting the Deadhead because the overall rate, the blended rate between the Deadhead and the loaded miles is still good. It's okay. Where we want it to be. So that number does not concern me one little bit.
Okay. So with that in mind, total revenue came to what?
$235,064.03.
Okay. For an all-in rate per mile of
$2.19 a mile.
Or 219
219 cents a mile would be great.
That's what. Okay, so $2.19 a mile. Not bad. That's pretty good for what we've been seeing the last few.
It is. If you look over the last year and a half, since January of last year, our average rate per mile has been $2.12. So 219's above that. Like I still feel like, as far as the market goes, that we are in the beginning stages of a recovering market, and that rate shows that. The reason that we had such a hard month this month, I don't feel like is market pressures. It's more internal factors, like some of the things that we've talked about. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we talk about the specifics of the P&L. But I'm still feeling cautiously optimistic about the market. I think the market's, like I said, starting to recover.
But this is where I wanted to go back to the total miles run, because when you're dealing with numbers in the hundreds of thousands, pretty soon it starts to feel, like money becomes monopoly money. Like it's hard to contextualize things sometimes. And so the total miles run was 107,335. And you mentioned, hey, on the high end with 11 trucks, we'd love to get to 130, right? So, 120, 125 would be great, but 130 would be tops, right, for a decent month. And I just ran some math. The difference between 130 miles and 107, okay, so that's the fast math. That's almost 23,000 miles, right? Mm-hmm. Times that by $2.19 a mile, Chris. Care to do some fast math?
Give it to me.
It's just over $48,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And so when we're talking about these kind of monopoly money numbers, no, it really means something. And this goes for the one-man band as well as the 10-truck fleet or the 100-truck fleet or whatever. It's those miles run. You're not kidding when you say like, hey, no, we can't be below 10K miles per truck, right? Yeah. Got to be up to 11, maybe 12, because that's what's going to drive the profit. It's just amazing how quickly those numbers jump. And we're going to get to like what the profit or loss was.
And the interesting thing about that is probably that extra $46,000 in revenue would have resulted in an extra $20,000 to $25,000 in net income. And
exactly.
So that's where you see that big difference. That that last. Every mile, once you've kind of covered your fixed costs, is where your profitability really starts to skyrocket. And so, it would have made a huge difference for sure.
So what did the final tally come out to, profit or loss?
So we had a loss of $8,939.48.
So call it 9K.
9K.
So yeah, that's why I wanted to highlight it, because that's just by having, by having a rough month like July, where there's a lot of vacations and whatnot, like it's a huge deal for the company's bottom line.
For sure.
So, okay, well there you go. 9,000 versus, could have been an extra 30 or 40 or 48K if you'd been running hard the whole month like you do some other months. Okay, good. Well, Chris, let's talk about profit and loss items then. There were some expenses to talk about, right? This month. And you already mentioned in the last financials episode, you told us that July might be a little bit tougher because of all the trucks in the dock, so to speak, in the shop, I guess we got to say. Tell me about what happened in July.
So, the lower number of miles, it's just a bunch of contributing factors. Like we've kind of already mentioned most of them. On top of that, I think the fact that we had trucks in the shop a little bit more than normal. We'll kind of talk a little bit about that when we get to damage or to repairs and maintenance. But that low number of miles just makes it really hard to recover when it comes to the revenue, and that's what it boils down to. Right.
Now there are some bright spots, right? So, brighter than what we've been talking about. Fuel, I think, is in that list of a pretty decent number there.
Yeah, I kind of messed things up a little bit in my show notes here, but the fuel ended up being 29.8% of revenue. Mm-hmm. So that's the highest we've seen since January of this year.
I was expecting, I thought we'd seen up in the 30s.
Not this year. We did last year. And so 29 still, if you look at the last 2 or 3 years, it's still probably better than average. Okay. But it's definitely a lot higher. And I felt that at the pump, like watching fuel prices, specifically in Utah, you saw things start to go up in July. And I think we're starting to see it go back down a little bit the last couple of weeks. It's starting to drop. So that number doesn't surprise me at all. But you look at it, it's the worst it's been since January. Well, January is when you're purchasing winter fuel, and the winter blend, it's typically a good 20 cents a gallon more just because of the additives they have to add so it doesn't gel up.
Right. And you just never know what the fuel market is going to do, especially with the world in the state it's been for the last few years. Okay, well, that's good to know. I thought fuel was looking a little better than it was, but shame on me. All right. Now, there were some damages out on the road.
Yeah. And It was I think $1,500 somewhere around there, and it was really kind of from two things. One of them, we had a restacking fee. I figured damages was the best place to put that, so a driver had to brake hard, shifted a load a little bit. We had to restack it before the receiver would accept it.
Yeah.
And that honestly, it was that was about 600 of it, and so that's not terrible. And then we had another driver that got in a little minor accident that caused damage to a tire or a couple tires, had to replace those. And that's where that comes from.
Your own tires then?
Our own tires, yeah.
All right. What else do you want to highlight?
Let's talk about repairs and maintenance. We have to. The last 2 months in repairs and maintenance have just absolutely killed us. Again, another month where we're close to the $45,000 mark when you combine those two. And it's a lot of little things for the most part. There was only one bill that was around $5,000. Everything else was smaller, but it was a ton of tires. Our reefers seemed to have a harder time than normal. We did a lot of reefer repairs
in July.
In
the Mountain West in July.
It doesn't sort of shock anybody, right? They're working really hard.
Yeah, we've
been hauling some ice cream loads, which makes it so that they're working extra hard. So that's not super surprising. But I want to talk a little bit about that $5,000 bill, because it was a little bit of a lesson learned for me, and something I should have known, and it was part laziness on my part. So we had a truck that had part of the fifth wheel where the trailer attaches to the truck had broke, and our normal mechanic that we use whenever we can in Utah, it's something that he wasn't able to take care of. So we had to take it to a shop. Get to the shop, they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I look at the timeline for the driver. I look at a few things going on, and the annual inspection isn't due far down the road. I'm like, I just want to make this easy. Let's have them do that while we're at it, and we'll be on our way. Well, lo and behold, they do the DOT inspection and find $3,000 worth of items that need to get repaired.
Okay.
And,
legit items or items that need to be repaired?
I'm not going to argue whether legit or not, but yeah, it could have been items that need to be repaired. Even if they were all legit, we probably would have saved $1,000 taking them to the mechanic that we normally use. Okay. And so I shouldn't have been lazy. I should have just had them do the fifth wheel repair, had our other mechanic meet up with our other mechanic, get him to do the safety. He does a great job with them, and he's honest as can be, trust him a ton. And then his rates are more reasonable. He's a good mechanic, so he gets things done quickly, and he doesn't charge. He charges a fair rate, and the shops are just they're ridiculous. And so what would have been $3,000 of repairs probably would have been $2,000 instead of $3,000, saving us $1,000.
Right.
Which, again, that's my bad. I shouldn't have had them do the DOT inspection.
Right. Oh, there you go. And it's again, the monopoly money. No, this is real money, and you're looking at well, hey, you had a revenue of $235,000. What's $1,000? It's a lot. That's a lot of money, especially with profit margins as thin as they are in a trucking company. So you gotta. I mean, how many mickles and muckles have we talked about over the last 5 years?
Death by 1,000 paper cuts, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, pay attention to the little things if you want to survive out there on the road.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris, I teased a story, but I think we've been going for a little while. Okay?
We have.
I think we're going to save the story.
I think it's a good idea.
Listen, this is the
Are you
professional
give a teaser? You can give it.
Just believe me.
I'll turn red, but it's okay. It's an old man problem here.
All the drivers out there in their 40s and 50s are going, oh, I think I know what's coming.
Yeah. What should happen to everybody as they're turning, getting really close to 50?
There you go. All right. So we'll just leave that there for now. We'll keep that in our back pocket for a future shorter episode. Chris, thanks for coming in, of course. And everybody else, thank you so much for listening. Haulin Assets LLC.com. motorcarrierhq.com and HaulinAssetsAcademy.com.
Good
All
job.
right.
Look at that.
Oh, and also 5-star reviews. Let us know.
Okay, you go ahead and just slag me off on the reviews, but give us 5 stars. That's totally fine.
Give us a good comment or two. Tell us what you either like or don't like about it. Yeah. The stars are great. We want those, but I like to hear something you like or don't like about it. We read through all those.
There you go. All right, thanks everybody, and we will see you next time.
See you then.